Welcome to a short preview of this Screencasts Online video tutorial.
This week we will take a look at a brand new photo editing application by the Pixelmator team called Pixelmator Pro. Now the non-pro version of Pixelmator has been out for some time now and has served as a Photoshop replacement for many Mac users who didn't want to pay for the full version of Photoshop or who didn't want to buy into Adobe's new subscription program. We have covered Pixelmator in detail in the past, but with the new Pro version released, we thought it would be a good idea to check out the new version. Pixelmator Pro is a professional version of the original Pixelmator application that includes a new single-windowed interface, machine learning capabilities, and a host of editing tools to help you make the most out of your photos and graphics projects. In this screencast, we will cover the features that might be more helpful for working with your photos and see how Pixelmator Pro could become a Photoshop replacement for working with your photos. So let's get started with the installation and setup of Pixelmator Pro. Okay, so here we are over on the Pixelmator website at pixelmator.com. You can see we're looking at Pixelmator Pro. It is version 1 and it is Project Whirlwind. One of the things I wanted to show you on the website is if you just come over here to Explore and click on this, you'll notice down here there is a free trial. So you can try the application before you purchase it to see if it fits your needs. Now if you do want to buy the application, you can click Buy here, but what it's going to do is take you over to the Mac App Store. And let me just close this down. So it's going to launch that for you and take you right into the Pixelmator Pro page where you can purchase it. Pixelmator Pro is $59.99. For comparison, the non-pro version is $29.99. So I've already purchased this, so let me just go ahead and put this down here, and we're going to launch Pixelmator for the first time.
That's just a quick preview of one of this week's Apple-related tutorials from Screencasts Online. Screencasts Online is your premium source of Apple-related video tutorials. All of our members get access to brand new, up-to-date tutorials each week, as well as unlimited access to our entire video archive full of Mac and iOS-related tutorials. You can stream and download all of our videos on your Mac, iPad and iPhone, and even your Apple TV using the members-only Screencasts Online Apple TV app. Membership also includes a complimentary subscription to the digital Screencasts Online monthly magazine, published each month and packed with videos, articles, reviews, as well as hints and tips covering all aspects of the Mac, iPad, iPhone, and all of the other fantastic Apple products. So, if you're ready to start getting the most out of your Apple devices, visit screencastsonline.com today and become a Screencasts Online member.